It's time to get educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. Before we get started, please hit that share button so we can share this with lots more patriots across the country. Before we start, I do want to give a shout out to our friends at Clean Start. Look, this is a wonderful foaming hand sanitizer, and when I put a little bit behind my ear, guess what I smell? Me, because it's unscented, and that's the best smell out there. This stuff helps cure wounds. Look, if you're a prepper out there and in Biden's world, in Biden's America, you better be stockpiling stuff. Get a 2-gallon jug of this stuff. It will make 19 bottles. All you have to do is go to freedomproject.com/clean, K-L-E-E-N. That's K-L-E-E-N to get your order. Again, freedomproject.com/clean. Okie dokie. Today we start with a white professor at a private Jesuit college in New York City. There's no possible way that sentence, white professor, Jesuit college, New York, there's no way this is going to end well, who was just fired, see, I told you, because he accidentally called 2 black girls by the wrong names. He switched their names. How dare they? We got to get the Inquisition back, those Jesuits, you know? The Society of Jesus, right? The most liberal, Francis, right? Francis, the communist non-pope, is a Jesuit.
It was Composition 2. Oh, those English classes. As always, English. Dun, dun, dun. It was back in September when Christopher Trogan was, well, I guess, now former English lecturer for Composition 2. And he, called 2 students by their wrong name. And so there was a brief mix-up, and he was briefly confused, he said. And so the students responded to the incident of the name mix-up by emailing Trogan after class. And they said, hey, we're offended that you didn't get our names right, that you confused us, and, it's because we're black, and that's why you got our names wrong. Well, Trogan, he wasn't like, oh, no, that's not why, or whatever. He said, you know what? I'm sorry, and I'm going to email the entire Composition 2 course apologizing for my innocent mistake, as he called it. And he said he had a, quote, confused brain, because the 2 students whose names he confused, they walked into the class late at the same time, and he was reading the work of another student, I guess. So according to the email that he sent out, the offended student assumed my mistake was because I confused that student with another black student. I have done my best to validate and reassure the offended student that I made a simple human error. It has nothing to do with race. And again, for some reason, he decided to send this to the entire class. Dr. Duke, if you mix up a student's name, have you just sent the entire class then an email? Is that a smart move on any?
It's not a smart move because you although I understand it. Look, what happens when African American kids complain? The whole weight of the existing system comes down upon you. It doesn't matter if the African American kid's accusation is truthworthy. It doesn't matter if it's silly. It doesn't matter if it's a complete waste of time. It doesn't matter if it's obviously an accident. This is like it or not, this is the situation you've set up where melanin means that you must get everything you ask for when you ask for it. And these girls are really kind of despicable because what ended up happening? What ended up happening is the university went ahead and investigated this guy. They ultimately fired him, and the girls then came out and said, well, we didn't want him really fired, but we were more offended by the letter he sent out than by making a mistake. And if you were really not that offended by it, and then when he wrote to everybody, then you got offended, then you are the problem, ladies. It's your problem. And I don't even know your names, or else I would mix them up on purpose.
Well, all right then.
Take that.
So, and that's what's so interesting is, so in this email then, it wasn't, if he's going to email the entire class, he would have ended it there, like, I'm sorry, it had nothing to do with race. But instead, he continued on, and he said that he encouraged his student, well, which is in a way smart too, He encourages students to relay any concerns with him to the dean of the school, his department chair, and other administrators who have jurisdiction over matters between professors and students. I guess in this day and age, you have to say that, like, hey, if you have any issue, go to them.
I don't think you do.
But
I don't think you do need to give them a chapter and verse. What I would have said, if the girls kept griping about it, I might have said, go talk it to the dean. I don't have time for this. But for the whole class like that, it's almost as if what he's doing here, I hate to say this because it's true, what he's doing is he's almost like using this to virtue signal.
Well,
isn't that right?
So
they accused him of this, very petty, very childish, but that's the university's fault for grooming kids to be, particularly black kids, to be that way. So he decides he's going to turn this into a federal case in which he shows you how utterly woke he is, right? He apologizes 8 ways from Sunday. He doesn't just apologize to the girls, but he sends out a blank missive to the entire school, the entire class. Mea culpa. This is very Jesuit. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea Mexico, right? What's going on here? What a wonderful illustration that what's happening in these perverse universities, even these perverse Catholic universities, what's happening is a new religion and a new inquisition are at foot here.
And the thing is, in that email, this is where it is. He, again, could have stopped the email at any point, but in the email then he explained how he has dedicated his life to fighting for justice and equity, and said he actually designed his Composition 2 course to specifically and explicitly around the issues of justice, equality, and inclusion.
Look at me. Look at me, I'm as lonely as a tree without a bee. Look at me. All right? It's almost as if he's been watching nationwide as professors go viral for the dumbest things in the world. And so this guy, he's going to show how he's the anti-one of those, right? He's going to show how an adult white male in a situation like that demonstrates sensitivity, that all liberals everywhere will be cheering for him. These young girls will want a statue erected of him in the quad. This is what he's going for. He got bit by his own white savior complex. That's exactly what the girls accused him of.
That's according, to the local newspaper. They had said that the actual confusion and all that was the white savior complex, and that is what he's doing. By the way, one of the girls' names is Chantel.
Now,
Chantel,
that's awfully close to Shaniqua, who is our black Karen, right? But let me read this, if I may, just real quick. Here's what the girls said about the note to the class. Quote, "It seemed a little excessive. Like all you needed to do was say sorry." Now that's a lie, girls, and you know it. If all this took was, this is where you're being really, really dangerously disingenuous. Now that it all blew up and he got fired, you have enough of a conscience not to have wanted that. But you triggered this. You say, "It seemed a little excessive, like all you needed to say was sorry, and it would have been fine. It's never been fine before with people like you. You always demand your pound of flesh. Nevertheless," she told the Observer, we were not actually upset, all that upset about mixing up our names. Then why the email? It was more so the random things he threw into his response afterwards. Boy, talk about lighting the world on fire and then pretending you were just having fun with matches. You're too smart for that, ladies.
With all the censorship taking place on social media platforms, we've made it easy to keep up with your favorite content. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app in your app store. Get access to 18 new videos a week, plus thousands of archived shows, lecture series, and educational animations. Download the Freedom Project Media app on your Apple TV, Roku, tablet, or phone, and make sure you allow for notifications to keep you informed.
well, we know we can't name anything because it's racist, it's sexist, everything is an ist, or ism, whatever. And we just had Black Friday not too long ago. So, I mean, every year when it comes up, Black Friday is always, oh, how dare you say that? Really, it's only been for the past couple of years, but nonetheless, it feels like it's been an eternity of people being like, oh, about Black Friday. But did you know it actually has absolutely nothing to do with race?
Everything has something to do with race, Katie.
Well, I'm a horrible human being. Mea culpa, mea culpa. Anyway, insert, obviously, campus reform, where we have Ophelia Jackson, and she went down to the University of Florida, as she does, and she asked the students about the day, and if it should be named Black Friday, because she, as you'll see in the video, references the Chicago Tribune article from the week before Black Friday, because over at the Trib, they have nothing to actually report on in Chicago. No crimes apparently happen there. So instead, we're going to write entire columns called, it's a long one, I need to prepare, Talk of the County, Black Friday should be renamed so it's not discriminating and profiling against black people. Let's just watch.
So there was a reader-generated column of opinions that was published in the Chicago Tribune, and one of the sections claimed that Black Friday discriminates or profiles against black people, and that we should rename the day to be Holiday Buying Day or Spending Day. What do you guys think of that?
Honestly, yeah, I'm down to rename that. I don't like the name Black Friday. Never really have since I was small.
I kind of agree that the name should be changed, just because, Black Friday sounds offensive.
What if I told you that the term Black Friday has nothing to do with race? When stores are in the red, it's said that they're not making any profits. So a lot of stores say that they're in the red before the day after Thanksgiving. And once Black Friday hits, they're in the black, meaning they're turning profits now because of all the sales. Should we still change it?
No. I think nobody should overanalyze it. If it's not about skin color, then I don't see that there's a problem.
Renaming it to these weird, clunky phrases isn't going to help actual black people.
Knowing really what it does mean, it just kind of makes me think okay, this isn't something that's actually offensive.
Yet again, venality of these kids, right, who immediately jump to the worst possible conclusion only to be given the truth, and then they fall back to a position of actual common sense, which will be forgotten the next time. I want to humbly propose 2 solutions to this. Number one, the first thing we have to do is come up with another name for black the color. I mean, look at how much trouble the word black as a color gets us into. Anytime you put black before anything, you're discriminating to a huge population of miseducated college kids. So why don't we just cancel the word black when it comes to color, C-O-L-O-R, and let it stand for race, right? And then we can apply that to Black Friday. So you give it a whole nother day, right? To black. So we're taking your suggestions. Email the Dr. Duke Show, get a hold of us. What should we rename Black the color, right? And that's number one. Number two, since we're talking about Black Friday, where everybody's out in stores and shopping, how about we do this? We no longer call Black Friday because that implies actually paying for what you buy. With all the looting going on, primarily by African Americans, how about we create the word blooting, B-L-O-O-T-I-N-G, to give them actually credit for what they're doing. Blooting, when African Americans get together in flash mobs and rob Louis Vuitton stores. Welcome to your new blooting culture.
It's funny to me that, it's not funny. It's not funny, haha, more funny I'm going to cry because it's so pathetic. The fact that they don't understand until now, this is the first time they heard about what it means to be, in the red versus in the black and how you want to be in the black. So you would think they should celebrate it because you want the black, you don't want the red. So then that would be racist toward another group if you're in the red. Why can't maybe we could call it Green Day instead of Black Friday, call it Green.
Well, that would be
Day.
problematic to the drooling environmentalist out there because you're appropriating their word. Now you got to come up with a whole new word. You got to come up with a whole new word for the color black, and we're taking your suggestions. Instead of black, what should we call the color? Because this is. I'll make the first suggestion, and you'll know exactly where I'm getting this from.
Oh no.
Let's call it Vader. Or Cash, all right? Who are our famous wearers of black? You got Darth Vader.
Yes.
You got Johnny Cash. I'm Johnny Cash. All right? Why not call it Cash? What an homage.
Wow.
A boy named Sue.
Today's show is sponsored by our friends at MyPillow. Save up to 66% on all items at MyPillow.com when you use the code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Support this show by supporting a great American company.
Since we're almost done with the fall semester, let's, kind of take a look back and look at the enrollment numbers now that, for the most part, college campuses are back in person, or at least they have been here for this past semester. Well, according to a new report that came from the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center, 7.8% fewer students are now participating in undergraduate programs, with public two-year schools and private for-profit four-year schools seeing the most significant declines. I repeat, undergrad enrollment has dropped by pretty much 8% in the past 2 years. Oh, why? I wonder why. Now, according to the report, roughly 2 months into the second fall semester of the pandemic, post-secondary enrollment is now running 2.6% below last year's level, for a total 5.8% drop since 2019. Now, undergraduate enrollment declined 3.5% from last fall, which is 7.8% from fall of 2019. That's where you get your almost 8%. Graduate enrollment actually grew. So, interesting. They grew at 2.1%, but undergrads went down. Interesting how that works.
Well, it makes sense to me as a 30-year academic, because when the environment and the economy gets bad, people flock to graduate programs, right? It's a nice place to hide yourself for a couple of years. You take out your loans, which are going to, no matter how bad the environment gets, the idiot government still will give you hundreds of thousands of dollars to study basket weaving and feminist dialectics at the graduate level. So it's a good place to hide out and camp, number one. Number two, undergraduates, where you'll see that loss. And here's well, you didn't quite get to this yet. I'm going to throw this out there. Male versus female attendance. This, to me, is a very telling statement. Between fall of 2019 and fall of 2021, males fell attendance-wise from 10.2% and females only by 6.8%. Now remember, before we went into this period here, already girls outnumbered boys on college campuses and undergrad programs almost double. Was getting real close to double. Actually about a third. There's a third more girls going to colleges as undergrads instead of boys. That's a huge number. If that number were reversed, if something like 60% of undergraduates were boys and only 40% were girls, you would hear endless cackling, howling from the Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris types. It would be the end of the world as we know it. That sausage party would come to a crashing end. But because it's women dominating at the undergraduate level, no one cares. And what this is going to do, that's another 4-point swing at least towards girls. So we're getting really close to doubling that up. Twice as many girls as boys, and no one's going to give a single concern about that.
And we already know across the country there are various institutions closing up shop, including CNBC reported that Bloomingfield College in New Jersey, Judson College in Alabama, Becker College in Massachusetts, Concordia College in New York, the Pennsylvania state system of higher ed actually is going to merge 6 of their universities into 2. In Wisconsin, this already happened a couple of years, well, was it 2 years ago now? Yeah. Where we had our 2-year institutions having to merge with the 4-year because you can't get students. So they're doing all they can to keep the doors open for the sake of getting your money. But it's not working for some of these, and they're starting to close up shop. We'll see if this trend continues.
This is going to get a lot worse. And another factor that we're not talking about, I mentioned this, I think it was last week on the Dr. Duke Show, is that and those kids who have remained or are coming to school now, it's a totally different game changer. One day we will write of American public universities, before BC, before COVID, and AC, after COVID. Because not only are they not coming, but those kids who remain or are now coming to college have an entirely different attitude. It is stunning, the level of laziness. It is stunning, the unwillingness to have to work. It's almost as if they've decided, we're here to keep you afloat now. Right? For a long time, we've treated students like customers, not students. That's how come you get all this political correct garbage, right? In order to get more preferred minorities to come to your college, you have to sell out the mission of the college. You have to completely change the curriculum to make them happy, and you sell your soul to the idea that kids are clients, they're customers, they're not students. And now it's almost as if the student body has realized those who stay, many of them are not the least bit interested in work. They don't want to read. They're not terribly interested in writing. They just want to sit there. They want to enjoy the experience in the dorms. They want to have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday party nights. If they're at the big campuses, they want to go to the college football and basketball games. But they aren't interested in being students. And here's what they know that we know, the professors as well. There's so few of them left. If we start failing them, we're cutting our own throats. It's time now for some real education. We've been talking this week about honoring Hanukkah, the beautiful Christian celebration for our Jewish friends that is just underway and over now. The sacrifice, what we're looking at is Rembrandt's painting. Rembrandt lived in the Jewish quarter for a long time. He had many Jewish friends. He was very sympathetic, very emotionally connected to the Old Testament. And so we took a look at one of Rembrandt's paintings about the Old Testament yesterday. Let's get another one here. This is the sacrifice of Isaac from the book of Genesis, one of the most compelling stories, I think, in all the Bible. God ordered Abraham to sacrifice his only son Isaac as a test of his faith. This is Genesis 22, verses 1 through 13, at least in your Christian Bibles, that's how you would find it. Abraham set out to carry out the command, proving his belief. But God sent an angel to stay his hand just as he was about to sink the knife into his son's body. Rembrandt captures all the drama and all the culminating moment in this terrible intended sacrifice. Abraham's amazement as the angel stops him with hand raised is revealed in his expressive gesture and the strong look on his face, which almost borders on madness, kind of ecstasy. We see a moment of great emotional tension. It's expressed in dynamic forms and lines, the heightened drama, the monumental forms, the turbulent movement, the sharp contrast of light and shade. These are all typical of Rembrandt's works from the 1630, very Caravaggisti, in the manner of Caravaggio. This painting could have been done by Caravaggio, and it reflects the Baroque style. Now, look at the picture again. I think this is one of the most misunderstood stories in all the Bible. It's how could God be cruel? How could God... You remember the story of Abraham and Sarah? They had no child. They were grown very old in years. When God picks Abraham to be the founder of his people, this new covenant between God and man, he picked Abraham. And one of the things he did is he gave Abraham and Sarah a child at that extreme age to demonstrate his love for them and his ability to do anything he says he can do. Now, of course, Abraham and Sarah made a mistake. They waited. They thought God was going to give them the child right away, but they didn't. It didn't happen right away. It took years and years. They got impatient. They had a child. Abraham was sent in by Sarah to the maid, and had sex with the maid, and gave birth to Ishmael. Not what God had intended. God eventually would bless Ishmael, but that doesn't mean that Abraham and Sarah didn't put their foot in it. So is this a situation where God is basically for no good reason, telling Abraham, go ahead and kill your child just for spite and giggles? No. I think in reading Genesis, this is God's punishment for doubting him to begin with. It's a lesson to Abraham. He was never going to let Abraham kill that child. But the lesson God seems to be teaching Abraham, whose child is it, mine or yours? Who miraculously gave you that child when you could not make one yourself? I did, and yet you wouldn't believe me. Yet you betrayed your faith in me, and it gave rise to you sleeping with another woman and having a bastard child. This is a reminder by God, it seems to me, unless you remember always, Abraham, whose child it is, right? Then you will keep that covenant close to you in mind. It doesn't strike me as evil at all, but as compelling.
If you have a question for Dr. Duke and Katie, please send it our way by emailing askduke@fpeusa.org.
And that wraps up this show for Freedom Project. I'm Katie, and he's Dr. Duke.
Until next time, stay educated, my friends.